So you'd jump off the train at Glenferrie station, you'd go through the tunnel, you'd walk through here, and you'd probably hear the roar of the crowd as you'd come through onto the famous Glenferrie Oval. And as you look around, it's a picturesque little ground, little boutique stadium you'd probably call it these days. Great little backdrop with that Michael Tuck grandstand, but that's how you get in from the train station through the tunnel to Glenferrie Oval. And welcome to Glenferrie Oval, home of the Hawthorn Footy Club for well over 60 years. This is their spiritual home at Glenferrie Oval, which they trained at for a while, and they moved in I think it was in the late 60s, early 70s to Princes Park. So really looking forward to exploring this ground. As you can see, this is the back of the Michael Tuck grandstand, which is a pretty big grandstand from the back. Let's go in and check out Glenferrie Oval. And here's the famous Michael Tuck grandstand. I'll tell you what, this is probably one of the best grandstands in suburban Melbourne. Really Art Deco. Really nice grandstand. Obviously, at the moment, all the seats have been removed. I think the VAFA's moving in here, and this is where all the seats used to be. I think it's going to be offices and things like that. So they're in the process of getting all that done. But I'll tell you what, this is an absolute beautiful grandstand, the Michael Tuck stand. And as we pan around to behind the goals, there is the weightlifting centre, which was there when Hawthorn was here, still training back in the 80s and the 90s. And just over here, there's been a grandstand demolished. So there was a grandstand where them toilets are, which was probably demolished in the last couple of years. So there was a nice little grandstand as well there. As we pan around the ground, I still don't know how they played VFL / now AFL on this ground. I'll tell you what, it's absolutely tiny. There's a tunnel over there which takes you under the train line, which is just there. All this greenery here, there used to actually be a bit of terracing there, and all that's been removed over the last few years, and I guess the trees have won, and it's gone back to probably what it originally was. So this is the outer wing at Glenferrie Oval. As you can see from a close-up, was not much room at all. So to the back there at the very top is where the train line is. So you've literally got probably less than 10 metres between the boundary line and the train line. It's absolutely crazy. They used to pack it in on this side of the ground though. There was a lot of terracing, and it was tiered, as you can see through there, and they used to pack them in on this outer wing. But I'll tell you what, this is probably the wider wing. We'll have a look at the other side of Glenferrie Oval, but crazily enough, this was probably the wider wing of both the grounds. And it's no surprise that they did move to Princes Park. I mean, this ground was like a sardine can. It was so tiny in here. Here I am standing in the middle of Glenferrie Oval, and I'll tell you what, this is probably the greatest way to articulate how tiny this ground is. As you can see there, you're probably a good little drop punt to the wing on that side of the ground. You look to this side, maybe a nice little talk with a bit of tailwind, you'll get to that end of the ground. This side of the ground as well, you're probably a nice little 30-40 metre drop punt, and you're kicking it onto the outer bounds, and then this end obviously the same, a nice little torp. It was an absolutely tiny ground. I cannot express how small this ground would have been, even just as a local little footy ground, let alone an AFL game being played here. It's just it's mind-boggling that they played AFL footy here. And at that end of the ground here is where a lot of the fans used to pack in. There's a swimming pool there that never used to be there, but there was a lot of tiered terracing at that end of the ground. And that's where probably, I reckon, 60% of people who didn't have a ticket in the Michael Tuck stand or the other grandstand used to position themselves. And yeah, it was pretty big on that side of the ground at the eastern end of Glenferrie Oval, which I never actually had a grandstand or everything. All the stands at Glenferrie Oval were always at the western end of the ground. Fair dinkum, this ground is just unbelievable. Look at this. So there's a coach's box. As you can see there, the third fence in, that's the street. You literally got, some people have got a wider nature strip than this side of the ground in their own front yard than the size of Glenferrie Oval. You could literally, I reckon you could probably stand 3 or 4 people there deep, and you're onto the fence. So this was the old coaches' boxes that were used up until they moved to Princes Park. I'm assuming this is probably the away one, being further away from the grandstand, and obviously the one up there was the home one, I would say. But as you can see, this is just crazy. It's crazy that they even played footy here. Amazing history at this ground. All this old brickwork would still be from when they were here, Glenferrie, for the Hawthorn Footy Club, when they joined the VFL / AFL now in 1925. It's amazing they even got to the late 60s to move to Princes Park, considering how tiny this was. And it was all probably thanks to this grandstand. They spent a lot of money on this grandstand getting it built, and they probably wanted to justify its existence by staying here. But yeah, it was a great decision to move from Princes Park. Moved to Princes Park because yeah, this place was just outgrowing the Hawks, especially through their dominant years when they were winning flags. Felt like every second year, and they were in grand finals almost every second year as well. This is where they were. For guys like Jason Dunstall and Peter Hudson, obviously Jason Dunstall never got to play a competitive game here, but for Peter Hudson playing here, he must have absolutely loved it because he was always probably half a kick in play. Anywhere the ball went, he was probably within play because, as you can see, there's no wings. The ball was just deep into the forward line, and Hudson would go grab it. There's the train going past timely, so that just shows how close the train is to the ground. And there's some footage on YouTube of the trains going past in the game and the horns. People actually thinking it was the actual umpires blowing the horn, but it was actually the train, and that shows how tight it was. So I'm assuming these were the old coaches' boxes, or maybe even timekeepers' box. But as I did mention, this building is very Art Deco. I love the way they've used the bricks, to make it circular. It looks very, very cool. It's one of the great grandstands in Melbourne, without a doubt. Now, they're obviously look like they're offices or something like that. Hawthorn obviously stayed here in an administration perspective until, I think it was 2006, before they moved to Waverley. So they still did utilise this building for a very, very long time. Now, here's the foundation stone. So this grandstand was built in 1938, replacing another grandstand that was here before that. So it's almost 100 years, this grandstand, and I'll tell you what, it looks as good as probably ever. Especially with the design. The Art Deco design looks absolutely fantastic. And here's an absolute relic here at Glenferrie Oval. We haven't had patrons here for 50 plus years, but the turnstile has lasted the test of time. Now, as you can see, pretty similar to all the turnstiles that are, all the old clubs that you go to, like when we went to Windy Hill. Still probably, it's all locked up now, so you can't use it, but that's a good little remnant of the ground the turnstile has survived. Now, as you can see, I'm actually out in the street now, so it's so close, the difference of where you are on the street to actually being in the ground. So patrons would have lined up along here, along the Michael Tuck Grandstand to get into the ground, and then they'd waltz in through these turnstiles, and they're almost, would have been probably on top of fans, in terms of how tight it was in this ground when you'd walk in. And here we are at the back of the Michael Tuck Grandstand. As you can see, it looks still pretty good. I think the local council may use it for some events, but this is where Hawthorn Footy Club admin facilities were until I think about 2006, 2007. They did still used to have a shop here for a while as well, before they fully made the move to Waverley. But you'd go through here, and you'd have the Hawthorn admin facilities. You'd have everything in here, the footy department, everything out of pretty much his Michael Tuck Grandstand, which is pretty crazy, to be honest. So the old reception sign is still there. So yeah, from when you go in probably to see somebody to buy a jumper or anything like that, is still there. And obviously this beautiful long grandstand, which is heritage listed, is still here. You're probably wondering, why am I filming a house? But this is where the Hawthorn Social Club used to be. So Hawthorn Footy Club owned this block of land until I think the probably mid-2000s, and they sold it off to someone to buy. And this is where the social club used to be. So you'd have, you'd have events here, you'd have dinners, things like that. It was really the hub for the footy club for a number of years. A lot of pretty cool things happened when the teams won the flag. They'd come back here and celebrate. It's a pretty significant bit of land in the history of the Hawthorn Footy Club, and I just wanted to acknowledge that this is originally where the social club used to be.
Here's a picture of the Hawthorn Social Club opposite Glenferrie Oval. I'll tell you what, this place was a pretty cool spot to go, and often gets forgotten about in terms of the great history. When you did go to Glenferrie Oval, you could head across the road and have a meal, maybe a roast of the day, and you'd have a look at all the premiership cups and all the great stuff that was there. As you can see, the after photo in the video obviously shows that there's a building there now, which the Hawthorn Footy Club sold the land.
So here's the back of Glenferrie Oval. As you can see, a bit of a community garden now, but this used to be the car park. So they'd cram in here. I'll tell you what, to park your car back in the day, even when they had a reserves game here, it used to get pretty packed. So this has obviously been turned to a park now, with obviously not many people using this part of the ground, with not many attendance for big games. Dotted around the ground are some little historical markers, and here's another one. Obviously, this was originally called the Hawthorn Sports Ground. So great to see the Burundara Council acknowledge what was originally here back in the day. So great to see. Now we're pretty much on the wing at Glenferrie Oval. There's a train line just there, just behind the goals. This little mound of dirt used to be where there used to be a grandstand until a few years ago, and they demolished it. I'm not too sure why, but it was a great little spot to watch footy from. I remember coming here for Hawthorn family days as well, and you could get up there. It was a great little spot. And right on time, here is the Ferguson stand. So this is originally what used to stand here until only a few years ago. Nice little grandstand, as I mentioned. And here's a little write-up on it as well if you want to have a bit of a read. But there was originally that grandstand there, which they pulled down to build the Ferguson stand. And they did utilise this space at the western end of Glenferrie Oval, which really was the only spot you could build a grandstand at all. So here's where Hawthorn's rooms were, through there. And obviously the Hawthorn race was here. And the away players would come out of the Ferguson stand. Now, for any loyal Hawthorn fans will know that in the 70s, 80s and 90s, the trainers used to put on an absolute ripper barbecue after training some nights, and it was all cooked out in front here. The fans would come in droves, and the Hawthorn Trainers Association was some of the best people going around. They really put into their club and helped out anyway. And the barbecue is probably one that sits in the minds of many Hawks fans, that they can remember being here after a training session, maybe a grand final eve sort of situation where you're playing on the Saturday. They'd be here cooking the barbecue, the loyal Hawthorn people. So as you can see here, this is what they plan to do with the grandstand. As you can see there, that's on the wing, how close it was. Them fans where I was talking about, where the coaches' boxes were before. Now this is a cool photo, absolutely love this one. So this is the Linda Crescent side. That's how close you were to the ground, obviously. And the fans just used to get on their bikes and have a look and get a free watch of the game. But yeah, there's what they're doing at Glenferrie Oval in the redevelopment. And there you have it, Glenferrie Oval. Absolute ripping building, ripping ground. Hope you enjoy this video, and don't be afraid to have a look at our other videos on YouTube as we go and explore grounds around Melbourne. Hope you enjoy. Thank you very much.